Autumn is such a beautiful time in the garden. Of course, there's lots to harvest food and seeds, but it's also a great time to do a bit of work. And in particular, it's a great time to get propagating. The first plant I want to propagate is this. It's known as the tree violet. It's a local species and it produces a beautiful fragrant winter flower. I really want to get it going as a great thick hedge along the front here, but it's been particularly slow. So what I think I'm going to do is halve those spacings to try and get it to thicken up and make a hedge more quickly. Now you can propagate it by cuttings, but at this time of the year, the other attribute of this plant when they're mature is they produce this beautiful little berry, and it's really popular with birds and lizards and skinks. But of course, this little berry also contains seed, so I'm keen to sow it and grow some plants to fill in the gaps. I've soaked this seed in soapy water for a couple of hours, and now I've just got to wash that flesh off to get the seed. I'm just squishing the fruit and using the sieve to literally rub away the flesh to get to the seed, and then I'm rinsing it off to get the soap off, but also wash off any inhibitors that I can remove at the same time. This is a great way to get the seed from most fleshy fruit. Now you can buy propagating mixes, but you know me, I like to make my own, and I use a couple of basic ingredients. So coir peat, that holds a good amount of moisture, and perlite, well, that's really good at ensuring there's enough oxygen for seed development or roots to form on your cuttings. The one tip about perlite is if you're going to use it, you've got to use one of these. To minimise the dust from the perlite, which is the hazard, I've moistened it down. I use about half and half of this and coir peat. And for the seed raising mix, I'm adding a small amount of sieved leaf mould. This will also help hold moisture, but bring a bit of biology to the mix. Tree violet seeds can take months to germinate, so it's really important that you keep them moist right throughout that time. Little trick I use 2 trays instead of 1, so that offers just a little bit of insulation if the wind is whipping around, but also the bottom tray has a bit of newspaper in it. That gets moist and helps. So just use some of that mix. So I'm just filling the tray and firming it down, trying to disperse the seeds as evenly as I can across that surface. Then I just gently apply a bit of pressure to make sure that the soil's making contact with the seed. And then to keep the seeds in place and keep them nice and nestled and moist, just use a little bit of gravel. I find the best thing to do with slow to germinate seeds is almost forget about them. Just put them in a spot where you'll remember to keep them moist, but other than that, leave them alone. These are going to go through the cooler months, which will also help them germinate. And then just when you think it's too late, they'll do their thing. You might remember that I planted this garden bed up last year, and this plant in particular has done so well. It's the local form of coir glabra. It's called coliban, which is a local river, and I'm really keen to propagate a whole lot more of it. Now in springtime, tip growth will root really, really quickly if you keep it sheltered, but coming into the cooler months, you need to use this semi-hard wood. So I just take about 5 to 10 centimetres and snip there. The other benefit of this is while you're taking your cutting material, you're also giving the shrub a little prune. I also want to take some cuttings of this coir. It's the mountain coir, and I reckon it is a fantastic plant. It should be more widely planted because it's widely distributed across the east coast of Australia. It can get up to about 4 metres high, which means it makes it a fantastic screening plant. A little tip is when you're taking cuttings to avoid anything that's got flowers on it, because if you take a cutting with a flower, the energy is going to go into that and not the cutting. This technique can be used to propagate most shrubs in your garden. To get the cuttings growing, I'm making up a really standard mix again, just 50-50 perlite and coir peat. Essentially, this whole bit of growth with 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes is going to form the roots and the shoots of the new plant. So the stuff that sits above the ground, when you put it in your pot, that's going to continue to be leaves. But the nodes below the soil level, that's where the roots will come from. So you need to remove the leaves attached to the bottom half or 2/3 of the cutting. And then on a soft tip like that, I actually remove it. And then when you come down the bottom here, I cut this quite long intentionally because I like to recut them just before I put that cutting in. So I'm going to snip it just below the node there. And then when you're putting it into the pot, it's important you use one of these. Could be a stick, could be a pencil, but it just makes a nice big hole so that you can slide that cutting in without damaging the bottom. If you just push it in, you risk damaging the actual growth. Just firm it in and then repeat. Of course, you need to keep these quite warm in winter, and an old esky is perfect. I've got some coir peat that's moist in the bottom, and then the bung hole open so they can drain, and then the pots just go in. And then to keep them sealed, just got an old picture frame from the op shop. Within 6 or 8 weeks, these should start to form roots, and then by springtime you can pot them up and get them out into the garden. Autumn really is a rewarding time to get propagating. So what are you waiting for?